Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Off Script Podcast. This is our very first episode of 2026. I am your host, Will May.
And I am Ashley Cerveny. And we lead Toast Real Estate Brokerage. And today we are going to be recapping 2025 and kind of introducing you to the new strategy behind the podcast and how we're going to be tying it into new fun stuff this year in 2026.
Yeah, so we took a month and a half off, I think, if not a little bit more. So we're excited to kind of share what we've been working on and why we took a little bit of a break to get ready for 2026, and then what our plan is coming into this year.
All right, let's get into it.
So today we're going to cover that. We're going to recap our numbers for 2025 and how we ended up. We're going to talk a little bit about mindset, skill set, and then what we're doing with our database on core team and with shared services, that the changes that we made that we think are going to work this year in 2026. And just how we should be speaking in the market reality, what's happening right now.
Yep.
So if you've been watching our social media accounts early this week, we announced that we are bringing back something that I've done in the past that I thought was really beneficial to the market. But we're starting a quarterly event series called the Agent Advantage here in Omaha. And it gives me the opportunity to interview 3 top agents that are in the market about a specific topic. So we're going to be doing 4 of those, obviously, quarterly this year. Ashley is one of our first panelists on the first one here in quarter 1. We're going to be discussing database, skill set, and mindset. So we're announcing those other panelists on our social media accounts now. And with that, they're also going to be invited to come on the podcast this year. So I'm super excited to get back to being able to talk with other agents, seeing what they're doing live, like what's happening in the market, getting tactics and strategies for other agents to grow from. And you're one of our first panelists. So not only are you a co-host of this, but also you get to be kind of the guest as well.
That's right.
Cool. So let's kind of go through.
You're not going to share the other 2 yet?
Not yet. Well, based off Wednesday, we might have announced one, but I don't know with where we're at. So we're filming this the week before, so I want to make sure I'm not oversharing. Do you want to kind of share what your numbers were specifically? I have our brokerage numbers, our model numbers that we'll go over.
Okay.
But you had a phenomenal year last year again. I think the one thing I get to be a fan of you at the same time as be your partner, and to be able to watch you gracefully, in my opinion, like we had ups and downs like everybody, but to be able to put together a year that you did and still be a great partner, be a great friend, be a good family member, like you do so much and handle so much, and it's like incredible to see how you operate throughout the year.
Thank you. It was definitely a year of challenges and growth. We had a lot of new faces brought into our brokerage, but we also added to our core model, our core team, which I lead with Katie Langenfeld, our buyer agent. So when I talk about numbers, I really look at our core model as a whole because for those of you that have been listening for a while, I exclusively work with sellers and Katie exclusively works with the buyers. So any of my clients go to her to serve those buyers as a team effort. So I really look at our goals and our numbers as a collective whole. But for me personally and individually on just the listing side, correct me if I'm wrong, I think I closed 56 units last year. And then Katie did right around that same amount, right? Do you know where she ended?
Yeah, I have our core team models here. So
a little bit over 100 for the 2 of us as the collective as our core model. And then we brought on Maya this year to really even niche down, I guess, if you will, our areas of expertise more. And she's going to be focusing her efforts on new construction. So we're kind of figuring out how that shift and reorganization within our team model looks with Katie, Maya, and I, and how those leads are handed and passed off and work together as a team so that we can continue to compound that success of staying in our lane and continuing to grow that.
Yeah, it was kind of cool. Our goal was 225
for the brokerage
units for the brokerage and 72 million in volume. We hit our volume number. We ended up at 75.78 million in volume last year, 221 closed units as a whole. So we've always focused, we were four off. We've always focused on that core team being over half. Core team did 121 units in total. We had Maya starting closer to the end of the year, but 121 in total with 3 agents. Our shared services did 66 units and just under 20 million in volume with 5 agents. And then our independents did 34 units and a 10.5 with 4 agents.
Okay.
And so when you add all that up, our independent agents, we had, I think, about half of the year. And those numbers, they joined us in May, June, late May, June timeframe. So I'm excited to see what that group can do as we grow it, number one, and number two, to have a whole year with them. Being in coaching, having strategy, having lead funnels figured out. I think 2026 is going to be a breakout year for that group for sure, just because we have so much more time with them.
Yeah, I'm excited to see, because this will be our very first full year as a brokerage to see what happens this year.
Yeah.
We have a lot of cool stuff in the pipeline.
Our brokerage average units per agent is an important number to us. So like I can let you speak to the culture, and then I'll explain what our that average is.
Sure. So culture at Toast, I mean, our goal is to really focus on recruiting and retaining high productive, high talent, high drive agents that really want to be here and focus on their skill set so that they can deliver that best client experience and continue to be around other like-minded individuals who also want to be very productive, because we know that when you're surrounded by that type of environment, that pushes you to do more if you're around other highly talented people. So it's really important to us to continue to reinforce that culture and hardwire best practices and activities such as scripts and role play and things that align with that culture so that it continue to grow whether Will and I are here or not on a day-to-day basis.
100%. And so we had 12 full-time selling agents throughout the 2025 year. Mark has his license, Anthony has his license, but they're in different capacities. Anthony is running our ISA department and not in client-facing sales, and Mark is a referral agent for us. And so with having 12 full-time agents, our average units per agent was 18.4.
Wow.
So we wanted to be right at 18. We were just a tad over that. And our goal moving forward is to continue keeping that number high so that we know where we're spending our time and resources are on the right people, and we're helping make an impact on the individual versus trying to recruit as many people as humanly possible and play a numbers game like that with retention.
Yep.
So that's kind of how 2025 wrapped up from a numbers standpoint. Goals for this year. For 2026, we're working towards our unit goal being 330 units, just over, I think it's 102 million in volume. So this will be our first year crossing 100 million in volume. And we're looking to add 6 agents to the team. 3 of them will be shared services. 3 of those agents will be independent on the independent model. And then I'll hopefully getting those agents and finding those agents early so that we can have an entire year with them and just develop their systems and structure.
Yep. And then our goal with the core model aligns with what we reference, wanting to be around half the units. It's probably never going to be perfect, but our goal for Katie and I this year for the core model for listing side and buy side is 150 units. And that would include new construction. So that shakes out to about 75 each side is what we're shooting for this year.
Yeah, you guys are now really developing those 3 lead funnels, right? Like the ISA department's pipeline is starting to grow, and that's our listing process lead funnel. That's starting to produce more appointments. New construction is really busy.
And database.
And database being the third. So we'll discuss our database changes this year, what we're doing from a marketing plan standpoint. But I think like the biggest change for us from coaching development for you and I and our agents is, like, I'm calling this is like our tracking year. We're tracking anything and everything. So I have some of our brokerage numbers of what we logged last year, and we've only improved our system. So we're going to be able to see these conversion rates, which I generally pull at the end of the year to see what our conversion rates were in sales. But we're going to be able to see these live this year.
Can I say something? So I think like it's so important to be tracking your numbers. I know we preach this all the time because it really helps you know where those levers in your business are that you need to double down and go after. So if you're low in a certain area, that's where you need to focus your time and energy. If you're converting low, then that means you need to be having deeper conversations. So the data tells you exactly how you need to transition your business and where you need to focus your time before you go through that.
Yeah, and not that I'm going to read off all these numbers. That would get a little bit boring. But the main ones that we have, like, for people in coaching, we logged just over 11,000 conversations last year and just over 420 appointments, which then resulted in the 221 closes, right? So now I could split those up between listing and buy side appointments and get really granular, but now we know where our appointment conversion numbers are and where we need to focus this year with our training. Our percentage buy to list was 50-50. almost exactly. We're off maybe by 1 or 2. So that seems pretty healthy for us. We'd obviously love to be 60% list side, but from a brokerage standpoint and having as many agents we do, being 50-50 is a really healthy number for us. We had 625 scripting sessions last year. The biggest area of improvement for us was open houses. We ended up closing 18 of our units were off of open houses from some source from an open house, right? And 15 of those came from our core model.
Mm-hmm.
And so we spent a lot of hours outside of that, close to 335, 350 hours our agents spent on open houses. And to only get 3 or 4 closes out of that,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, those people may be still in the pipeline because a lot of those were more second half of the year. But that was a very clear area of improvement for us where we can say, hey, we need to start focusing on what's happening inside that open house. Are we setting appointments there?
Mm-hmm.
So our scripting now has completely changed our structure to really focus and tracking to focus on how we're closing at the open houses.
Yeah, I think there's a misconception that open houses are not fruitful or that it's not a good lead source of business, but I think the numbers don't lie. And I think, like you just said, 15 of 18 of those were pretty much done by one person. So it's completely doable. And that just comes down to skill set and her ability to convert at a high level. So if you're having those right conversations, you're going deep at the open house and you're really practicing on setting those appointments, instead of just trying to sell that one house you're at, like you can really generate a lot of business from open houses.
Yep. So we're tracking our recap and close, which if you ever have heard our scripting structure, we're tracking how many times that happens in each open house this year to see if we're actually asking and closing inside the open house. Our average conversation to appointment was 25.9, another really healthy number. You want to see that between 20 and 25. Our conversation to a closing was at 49.8, which is a really good number as well. We want to see that probably stay right around that 55 to 65 number. And then we showed 7.2 buyers at a house before closing. So showings to close rate is something that we track as well. We want to see that between 4 and 7 pretty consistently. It means we're saying the right things and we're qualifying and closing people in the right manner.
That's actually a surprising number to me. I thought that would be higher.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, especially now that this market shifted, you hear a lot of agents saying they're running around showing a ton of houses. So 7 to a closing is lower than I expected.
Yeah. And probably my favorite number on this whole thing is dollars earned per conversation. So we track over 11,000 conversations, and then the money that the agent put in their bank account every single time a conversation happened was $144. So whether it was a no or a yes, our agents made $144 every single time they attempted a lead generation conversation, which is a really, really cool number to watch. Mm-hmm. We obviously have outliers of $400 or $500 and then some at $20 or $25, but that average is a really cool number to watch year over year as it grows. Mm-hmm. I mean, that's not only volume, that's just in total conversations and conversion rates.
Yeah.
So we've like 10x our tracking now, so we can watch it every single week, and we know that that's going to make a big difference. But that's one of the strategies and skill sets from a brokerage standpoint that we feel is very important, is tracking your numbers, knowing them on a consistent basis when they come to coaching.
Yeah, I agree. And I mean, I don't even think it's just us. If you look at any top teams in the nation or you follow anybody who's finding a lot of success, I mean, they will all tell you that tracking and knowing your numbers and where your business is going is how they've found success. So I think it's just like a proven practice and something that you just should be doing.
Yep, exactly. And getting as granular as possible takes a lot of discipline, but it works, right?
Yep.
One other announcement that we have outside of Agent Advantage is another ancillary business that we are getting to start and are launching here in February. Do you want to talk about that a little bit?
Sure. We are going to be launching Upstage, our staging company, and Asia, who has been our listing manager and stager under Toast. And here really from the beginning, she's going to be leading that effort and going through the process of hiring people to help her. So we're really excited that we've been able to create a growth path not only for her, but also a internal, if you will, resource for our agents that are on our core team, shared services, and then this will be offered to our independent model as well at obviously discounted rates because it's something we've started. So I'm very excited about it because it's going to just help with efficiency, turnover on our listings, getting things done quicker, not having to go to outside staging companies, and we're able to offer it as an internal resource for anybody that's in our brokerage. So I'm excited about it.
And she's worked so hard. Like
she has.
She earned this, deserves this. I'm super excited to see what she does here this year as she gets into this. And there's been a lot of work that's been happening over this past month and a half, 2 months, just to get this launched and started?
Yeah, part of the reasons we've been quiet is we've been working on our business during the quote unquote downtime of December. So we took a pause on a lot of things so that we could really be set up for success this year. And this is one of the big efforts we were working on with her.
Yeah, love it. Okay, next up we have market reality. Where are we at today? Like, what's happening in the market as of right now? So we can probably go a little bit quicker on this, just knowing like we're in it, right? So what are you kind of seeing from buyers and sellers right now, or what's the overview that's happening?
I mean, you're hearing all kinds of stuff on social media and the news, and maybe correct me if I'm wrong, you're the data guy and has ran the new market numbers, but I've always considered us more in a neutral market than a buyer's market right now. So correct me if I'm wrong on that, but I'm seeing a lot of agents out there saying we're in a buyer's market now. And I don't think that's actually the reality. What I'm seeing is we have this polarized dynamic between sellers and buyers right now. Of sellers are still in that kind of COVID mindset of my house is worth more than it is, and still without clear expectations from their agent, expecting that same activity and results that we were seeing. And then buyers are more educated, they're more patient, they're more strategic, they're taking their time, they're willing to let go a deal if it's not fit for them once we get to the inspection phase. And so they're more realistic and realize they have more leverage now.
Yeah.
And so we have this polarized dynamic where if you don't have this is the year for skilled agents. If you don't have a skilled agent who can navigate ego and navigate people who maybe not have clear expectations, because at the end of the day, we're working with another agent on the end of the deal. So if they can't set expectations with their clients really well, you're having to kind of intervene. That's what I'm seeing in this market is a lot more deals falling apart with unskilled agents. A lot more inspections are happening. It's pretty much an expectation now. I'm telling my sellers, if we're not getting it pre-inspected, that there's likely going to be an inspection. I'm also seeing a lot more concessions and closing cost requests from buyers on offers. But the reason I'm saying I don't feel like it's necessarily a strong buyer's market is when you strategically price and you're positioning your listing well, yes, those days on market have ticked up. Gone are the 3 days, multiple offers, but it's normal now. Like sitting for 20, 30 days doesn't mean there's necessarily something wrong with your listing.
Right.
But what I'm seeing is we're still getting close to asking price, if not full asking price, even when they've been on the market for sometimes 2-3 weeks. So we're just in a different market than what we were in.
Yeah.
And patience is key, and skilled, calm negotiation is key, and being able to manage emotions much more than ever.
Yeah, the skill set part is we've known that this market was coming, but you're seeing like inventory assumption rate, right? Like having 2 or 3 months of inventory, you're in a seller's market, and the historical number is at 6 months you're in a buyer's market. So if you have 6 months of inventory, you now are in a buyer's market. And we've just been slowly transitioning closer to that 6-month mark. It's been 1 or 2 months. We've been floating right around 3 months, but as we get to 4 and as we transition to having 4 months of inventory, yeah, it's a more healthy, a balanced market. It's not like, oh, there's 6 all of a sudden, it's a buyer's market and everything's changed. We're just in the process of it moving towards that. So sellers are still in control, and we don't have a tremendous amount of inventory, but buyers are definitely getting smarter. So I read something I thought was really cool. In terms of like perspective, buyers are now accepting the fact that rates are what they are. So over the past few years, they're going to go down. They got that really low interest rate, like you said, at the COVID time, where rates were really low, and then there was like the shock to the system where they went all the way up to 6 or 7, which was double what they were, and then you had economists saying they're going to drop, they're going to drop, they're going to drop for 2 or 3 years in a row, and now buyers have come into this year saying, this is what's normal, right? The buyers entering the market don't know what happened in the past. So the new norm is set in, kind of like when inflation happened, there's a knee-jerk reaction to inflation, like this is awful, this isn't okay, but eventually it settles in, this is the new norm, and then we move forward. And so buyers have accepted that. They're understanding where we're at there, and for the first time in a while, sellers are now behind. So not that homes aren't appreciating, but there's an inflated view of what they think their home is worth, and that's what agents are really struggling with. So before it was from a buyer agent, you have to talk your buyer into doing this or set expectation that this is what we're going to have to do in order to get the deal done. Now listing agents are having a much harder time setting expectations and being realistic with sellers.
Yeah, I would agree. And I would say that there's now a lot more opportunities for those home sale contingency buyers that didn't have that opportunity 3-4 years ago, because you could not compete against non-contingency buyers. It was just so competitive. So I think that's also playing into why that skilled agent is so important now, and why we're seeing a lot more of that fallout happening, because more and more and more of our deals have 2, 3. I recently just closed one that was a 4 domino effect home sale contingency, and those can get really, really complicated when you're having 4 inspections and appraisals and all the nuances to get to the closing table, and relying on obviously transactions and agents that you have no control over in that deal, but having to figure out a way to like get everybody to the closing table. And if you haven't experienced that before and worked through that, it's difficult. So I think we're just seeing a lot more of those situations, which is why we're seeing I think we saw some more contracts fall through and expired listings and different things, just through not setting good expectations. And then sellers being really, really stubborn and having a lot of ego of, I'm not taking home sale contingencies, I'm not coming down over asking price, when they're not educated correctly. And it's honestly to their demise, because we've gotten a couple of deals accepted where come back several months later, now that seller's willing to accept something much lower, but had they accepted their first offer in the first place, they would have made a lot more money.
So true. Yeah, expired listings were up 60% year over year in 2025, and fell through contracts were up 35%. And that's where we started to realize skill is so much more important. And I think you hit on a really important part of the home sale contingency, right? If you have somebody selling to buy, if you're a newer agent, and not saying that you can't do it, but skill and training is going to be so much more important, or having a group of people around you that can help you through that process, because you're no longer trying to get your buyer to do whatever they can to get a deal done. Now you have to have skill and trust. You need the listing. If you're a buyer agent with somebody selling, you need to have the listing agent trust that you know what you're doing and that you can get the job done. And then you have to get your seller to trust that putting their house on the market, we're going to be able to find something and get it under contract, and they're going to have somewhere to go. So there's that whole entire process that's becoming much more complex for agents. And that's why we saw fell through and expireds skyrocket last year, just because expectations weren't set the right way.
Yeah, and I think that slowness that we're seeing, that there's just this lack of urgency from buyers. From what I'm seeing, at least at the listing table, a lot of the slowness is happening from they just don't know what to do, because most of these people have home sale contingencies. They don't know where to start. They need somebody with confidence to tell them, here's exactly how the process is going to happen. Here's what we're going to do. And if you can't go into that listing appointment with confidence to explain to them exactly how you're going to help them, then they're not moving. They're not taking that next step, because there's so much uncertainty and a lot of variables with those home sale contingency parts that is causing fear in buyers and sellers, which is ultimately causing them to pause if you're not having the right conversations.
Yep, that's the slower moving in the market, right? That's why you're seeing agents set showings 4 or 5 days out from now, or be interested, and then you're not getting the offer right away. Those kind of things are starting to happen, and some agents are freaking out about it. But the reality is we're just, transitioning into this new norm.
Now, on a positive note, we are seeing a little spike. You always hear the spring market with the new year. We have seen a huge increase in buyer activity after the new year. Very, very busy open houses. We've had great warm weather too. So we're seeing a lot of buyers out there.
Yeah. So what to expect over the next 90 days? Right now, we're preaching one message through and through. We've already done our planning for the year. It's high activity. Be visible during this time. With buyers and sellers wanting to be more educated, you're seeing a flood of activity in the market, but yet the actual numbers of production are staying the same. So that can be that's like an interesting place to find yourself as an agent, right? Because you're like, oh, I'm moving a lot, but the numbers are staying the same. So right now is about casting a wide net, being visible. Your buyers that are going to buy and sell and sellers in the spring are entering the market now to do their research. They're going to take a little bit longer. The life cycle extends a little bit, but right now is your time to set your spring up. So if you're not high activity right now, you're behind the boat. So I think spring will bring a normal spring. It's not going to be like the craziest numbers of all time, but I do probably see like a lot more activity when it comes to early January, February, just because that's going to be where they're educating themselves and getting ready.
Yeah. And I think for sellers, because it sounds so doom and gloom, like we're in this neutral market, it's shifting a little bit. you're absolutely still going to be able to sell your home if it's positioned well. I think it's just coming down to gone are those days of like, I'm going to sell everything as is with these huge big ticket items and buyers aren't going to care. Like we're just in a completely different situation than we used to be in. So pricing it appropriately, positioning it well from a strategy. We still have houses selling very, very quickly. So it's not all doom and gloom by any means. It's just the right strategy and how you're positioning it with your actives and pending listings so that yours can stand out now because buyers have a lot more options.
Yep. Know your numbers. Be strategic with how you're coming up with that. We could probably talk about this for hours. When we go into database, I think that's one of our biggest things with the panel coming up. For you, that's kind of your specialty here is going to be on the panels. How are we communicating with our database to generate referrals in 2026? So talk about some of the changes we made from the 25 plan to the 26 plan and what we're doing differently.
Okay. So we have 86 touch points to our database for the core model, and our shared services model follows everything that we do on the core model after we kind of pilot and see if it's working. So I'm going to go through more of our core model because it's very similar to what we're doing anyways. But for personal outreach, face-to-face conversations via phone and text, our goal is to always touch your database, each person at least 4 times a year. I personally prefer a phone call. I feel like you get way more intel. You can connect a lot deeper with your clients versus a text message or just like a reach out on social media. I mean, if you're going to do nothing, that's better than nothing. But if you really want to challenge yourself and be courageous and face that fear of getting rejected on the phone, like pick up the phone and call, because I promise you're going to have much more meaningful conversations. Digital marketing, we do our weekly Toast post, which is really a email marketing that goes out to a wider net. So it's bigger than just our database. It's pretty much every lead that goes out to. So our marketing gal preps that for the week, and then we send that out. So that's 52 times a year we're touching our database via email marketing, and that's consisting of local events, things that are happening, market updates, homeowners checklists, contractors, handymans, resources to our database. And then what we've transitioned largely this year is a focus more on our monthly mailer. Now, I kind of was hesitant about this because, I thought, well, mail and print marketing is dead, but we have found this to be so successful in the core team that we're rolling it out to shared services now. So we actually eliminated doing all of our in-person pop buys. And for us as a team, that was just because capacity and operational time to do that. And how few times we were being able to touch that person once a year doing a pop buy versus a monthly mailer.
Yeah, scale, it's really
much
challenging.
Easier to scale. Yes. So we are doing a monthly mailer, which we call the monthly move, that Nicole preps for us, that goes out to our database and is delivered. We know it's not getting lost in an email. It's actually getting delivered to them. I've had so many clients reaching out saying how much they're loving this with the content and the local updates we're putting in it. And I know it's helping me stay top of mind, and I'm getting so many more referrals off of it because I feel like I'm not having to do near as much lead gen. So I'm having more lead gen come in-house to me where they're texting me after getting my mailer and stuff, wanting to reach out. Hey, I want to prepare for spring. I've gotten 4 in just December from the monthly mailer. So that's something new we implemented this year. So that's 12 times a year, 12 touches. And then we do our Husker Magnets as another mailer come August because, we're in Nebraska, so you have to. And then for events, we are doing 3 events this year. We're going to continue we do a March Madness event where we do a bracket challenge. That's obviously in March, coming up here soon. So we're going to continue on with that. We do some fun giveaways, a really good opportunity to get our clients in front of us. And that's more of an adult-facing kind of event that we do for that one.
Friday evening.
Yep, a little bit more, less kid-friendly, where we can go a little bit deeper with those, a different clientele. And then our summer bash, we're going to continue to do this year at Warner Park, and that is much more of a family-friendly event, so we're really excited about that. Doing our 2nd year of Toast Olympics, we've created some fun challenges and really kind of gotten our groove of how we can create some fun activities for our clients when they come, so it's not awkward coming to just some random real estate event.
Yeah. We wanted to kind of take a different approach of can we have some more engagement and fun instead of it just being 3 networking events?
Yeah.
How can we get them engaged and be a part of something that's either happening in the community or at a place that's important, right?
And then our Third one for this year is going to be our photos with Santa and kind of holiday event. I think we're going to switch it up this year, and we're actually going to do it at our office space, decorate the offices and have little goodies and hot cocoa bar and pictures with Santa. So again, more family friendly, but we usually do that one in early November to get ahead of all of the holiday rush. So that'll be our third event this year. And then our last things are we do giveaways throughout the year. Though that touch point has been really valuable to generate new leads. So that's not really a tactic to go deep with your current database. That one's more for lead generation to bring new people into your pipeline. We tend to get several hundred people that respond to those giveaways. We're doing a BrewMate cooler giveaway, a summer giveaway, Valis tickets. You could do concerts, sporting tickets, whatever you want to do. Create a Google form, Jot form, and then we ask a couple of questions when they're planning on moving, and that's how we generate some new leads and people who are raising their hand that they're getting ready to move in 2026 so we can reach out to them. And we do 3 of those a year. So in total for our core model, we're doing 86 touch points. And for our shared services, we are doing 73 touch points this year.
Okay. Yeah, no, I feel like when the biggest change this year as we get our structure down is the messaging is really, really important, but personalizing that and bringing your clients on the journey with you is so important. So, I mean, we literally could probably continue talking about the market for another 20, 25 minutes. That's the kind of stuff we can convey to our clients so they're aware. Like, oh, we need to prepare more. This is what sellers are doing. This is what buyers are doing to help them get ready for what their move may be this year, or having them come to our office. Where do you guys work? What's your environment like? What's the culture that you guys have built? And being proud of that's one thing. But number 2, letting them see that and let them be a part of that helps personalize you and helps them connect with you a little bit more.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think when you have that deeper relationship with your clients and you've built that rapport with them, it makes the transaction process go so much smoother when they do come to repeat work with you again and everything, because there's already this trust built and this relationship where it's much easier to have those tough, transparent conversations or telling them what they don't necessarily want to hear. Because at the end of the day, that's our job as an agent, is to sell their house and guide them and set clear expectations, even if it's not what they want to hear. And it's so much easier to do when your main source of business is coming from your database.
Yep, 100%. Yeah, because there's trust that's already built there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you're not chasing leads and trying to convince them to work with you.
Yeah. So those are the main changes. I think from actual touch points, how many communication points we probably stayed the same-ish from last year. We're just being much more intentional.
Yeah. I think we're just learning what's working well, and then I mean, like we mentioned earlier with data, it's data. We track this, we track what we do, and we track the results from it. So we realized the efforts from pop buys and the time wasn't really a great return on our investment as much as these monthly mailers were. And so that's where we're doubling down this year, and we're hoping our shared services will see the results of that, and that's going to help them just go deeper with their database and start getting more referrals. So that's the biggest source of their lead generation sources from database instead of, open houses, sign calls, all the other things that we layer on, but it should be database first.
Yeah, that's our most important and highest turning lead funnel that we have. And our focus on our team is to make sure that our agents can do the 4 calls and the rest of it. I mean, there's still some activity like updating the email to make it personalized, but we want it to be a structure that they can hop into and they can take off, right? With the mailers and with the emails, there's so many opportunities to tell people how things are going and what you've been working on. And that part is so extremely important, but that's what creates that database turn. Mm-hmm. And with the Popeyes, you can only get it. A physical person has to go deliver these, right?
Yeah.
And not that they don't work. I think for agents that are solo agents that want to make certain touches to their VIPs, mm-hmm. It is important. But when I looked yesterday in our CRM, we had 10,600 people in our CRM throughout the brokerage. Yeah. That's really hard at scale to deliver. You know what I mean? Even if they're not all database, 5,000 or 6,000 of those are database.
And expensive, right?
Can you imagine? Yeah. So it all adds up. Mailers can be expensive too, but if you're strategic about it, you can get your costs down and it can make sense to do consistently.
Yep.
Okay. Last piece of this is skill sets. So let's talk about a few skills that are going to be really important in 2026. Number 1 I have down is conversation skill. So as you know, this is probably one of our key things that we focus on from a training aspect. Script and role play is going to be really important this year, not only on how to set appointments, but how to negotiate, how to handle hard conversations with sellers, setting expectations. And I think it's really important to have either a role play partner or something that you're doing consistently in your schedule to get better in those areas.
Yeah, I think specifically for skill set, qualifying leads better and being able to ask the right questions to understand and separate problem from motivation and reason for move, and understanding that they actually have a problem and that you can actually help them, so that you're not spending a lot of your time convincing people to buy houses or working with unmotivated, unqualified buyers and sellers. So I think that's going to be an important skill set. And that's just learned through practice, right? Through script and role play.
Yeah, we talk about this all the time with our script and role play structure. We're practicing live combos, but we're in the market consistently and we're hearing feedback. This is how the conversations are changing. These are the objections we're facing. And then we're trial and erroring, and we're putting a structure together to help our agents be ready for those combos.
Yep. I think another skill set is going to be understanding on the listing side what's going to be important to buyers, of what needs to be taken care of prior to listing. Gone are the days of I've always done pre-inspections, but we really never did any repairs because we didn't have to.
Yeah.
It was just more like, hey, write us the offer and we'll negotiate that. Now I'm actually making repairs before closing. So being able to identify the right areas to make repairs on so that your listing sells quickly, and to preserve the money for the seller so they're not overspending and spending in the right places is going to be an important skill set this year.
Yeah, so that was that kind of plays into our second one, which is market and pricing skills. Those can be two separate ones, but being able to articulate what's happening in the market to your buyers and sellers is really important. So number one, you got to know your numbers. And then number two, you got to understand what's happening and what we're seeing change, and then explain that to your clients before they enter. That's the expectations that you're kind of talking about.
Yep. I think being able to guide your buyers and sellers is going to be really, really important. It's very often that I see agents ask the clients, what do you want to do? What do you want to write? How do you want to do this? What do you want to do? What do you think your house should be listed at? And they take this customer service approach of, I don't want to lose the client. I don't want to lose the buyer. I don't want to lose the seller. So I want to make them happy and do whatever they want. But they want to be happy, but buyers and sellers want to be guided. They want to be led. You're the expert. You're the professional. So I think it's going to be an important skill set to be able to guide them and be in the market knowing what's happening. It's a living, breathing organism that's changing daily, and being able to say, this was my recommendation 2 weeks ago, but we need to pivot based on what I'm seeing in the data, and be able to guide them through those tough situations so that they're making good decisions.
Yep. And if you're hearing, if you're seeing buyers and sellers try to take control, we have to self-reflect. Did we not set expectations early? And then that's what creates the harder conversations inside of the transaction, right? Where it's okay, now I can learn from this. On the next one, I need to get ahead of this situation and say, hey, here's what we're seeing happen, and here's where the contention points are throughout the transaction. Last but not least, pricing skill can be in there as well. That's part of expectations, but you've got to have a strategic way at which you're pricing homes. And again, same thing, you have to be able to communicate and articulate that to your clients in a way that they feel safe and that you have some data that backs it up.
Yep.
Last but not least, follow-up skills. I think this is having a system and structure for follow-up is sales 101. But we could get away with a lot of it before with how quickly and how few of listings that were on the market, how quickly things were turning. You could get away with not following up because there's so many deals there. And not that that's going to change, but if things take a little bit longer, whoever's there last is going to win. And generally speaking, first and last is online. That's where people are looking. So being able to follow up for a year and 2 years is really uncommon for agents to think through. I'm 2 years out. Those people have been written off forever, right? Yeah. Well, the 2 years is up now. Did you do the follow-up? They're here. Are we able to help them, or have they found somebody else or a different source that's helping feed them information to get them ready? So follow-up skills and structure, changing our mindset around that entire process of following up with people is important.
How often do we recommend follow-up?
So we track our pipeline, our 0 to 30, which is our hot leads, or people that are ready to go now, at least weekly, which is probably daily, but weekly at a minimum. Your middle tier, your 30 to 90s, which is 30 to 90 days out before they're ready and moving forward, at least bi-weekly. And then our 90 to a year is once a month. And that's at a minimum, if not more, and just making sure that nothing's changed, that there's nothing you could do to be helping them move forward. But now you're going to start seeing people say, I think I'm going to buy next year. And we can't write those people off. We've got to have them in our database structure, but we also have to be preparing them early of what to expect and what market changes are happening so that they're ready for anything that could happen.
Yeah, and most people tell you a timeline, and what we found is cut it in half, because usually whatever they tell you, it ends up being about half of that.
They're a year out, they're going to buy in 6 months.
If you're not following up, you're probably going to lose them to Zillow or something else if you're not staying in front of them.
Super true. 100%. Okay, cool. I think we've covered everything in detail.
Yeah.
For the most part. I'm really excited to see you on the panel coming up here with our 2 other special guests. And those will be announced, have been announced, or are getting announced here on our social media accounts. So watch out for that. And then that's a live in-person event here in Omaha in La Vista at Hurrdat Lounge is where we're going to be hosting that on January 22nd from 3 to 5. So if you are local, we'd love to see you there.
Yep.
That'll be filmed. We'll put it on our YouTube page if you're not, so you can hear from those agents.
Perfect. All right. Well,
thanks for listening in, and then we'll see you guys next week.
Agent Advantage.
Yeah.
Didn't know it.